And another huge variable in the race are the courts. We'll update you on the latest from the E.J. Carroll trial, the messy Atlanta case, and try to make sense of the large number of Republican voters who say they won't vote for a candidate if he's convicted of a crime.
Sabrina Hake, she's a federal trial attorney, 20 plus years, specializing in First and 14th Amendment defenses. Her legal and political essays have appeared in numerous law journals and publications, including the Chicago Tribune. She has an extraordinary, and I highly recommend, Substack newsletter. It's at Sabrina Hake, Haake, sabrinahake.substack.com, or just plug Hake, Haake, into the little search engine over on Substack, and it'll pop right up. And Sabrina published this just brilliant piece about the don't fall for the trumped-up charges against Fani Willis, which was also published over at Salon. Sabrina, welcome to the program. It's great to have you with us. Tell us about, the Washington Post wrote a piece about this a couple days ago in which they argued, in fact, I think it was in the third paragraph, they said that Fani Willis having an affair with a guy who works in her office who is also helping to prosecute Trump could be a violation of ethics rules. How is that a violation of ethics rules if they're on the same side of the case? I get it if she was having an affair with one of Trump's defense lawyers, but I don't understand this.
Right. No, it isn't. Short answer. Long answer.
Thank you.
The mainstream media is just getting this wrong, and I understand why. A guy who was Michael Roman is an indicted co-conspirator with the Trump Georgia election interference case, and he was Trump's the election day operations director. He filed a 127-page brief 2 weeks ago, moving to disqualify Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade from the case based on an alleged conflict of interest. And the tagline that mainstream media has picked up, which is really very offensive, is that they have been enjoying these lavish vacations at taxpayer expense. People need to understand that everyone who works for any unit of government, whether it's federal, state, local, municipal, county, they are all paid by taxpayer dollars. So under their analysis, anytime anyone takes a trip, if they are paid by taxpayer dollars, they're doing it at taxpayer expense. The conflict of interest piece of this is also convoluted and flatly wrong. It's not a conflict of interest if you're having a consensual affair with anyone, as long as they're not involved with the underlying case that you're prosecuting, in the sense that you're not going after a client, you're not hurting your client's interests. Mr. Roman is not their client. Their client is the Fulton County Prosecutor's Office, and their objective is a shared objective. It's not compromised in any way. What they want to secure is a conviction, if that's where the facts and the law lead, which we've all heard that phone call asking for 12,000, find me 11,780 votes. Everybody wants the same thing on the Fulton County client side of the bargain. Of course, Mr. Roman doesn't like it, but that doesn't make a conflict of interest. I've never heard of a romantic affair being a conflict of interest in any facts like this. I have more to say about the legal arguments, but I'll stop there and see if you want to talk about that specifically. But I also want to point out this tagline that he's constantly making, and he makes it throughout his brief. And I brought one of the exhibits from the brief to go over with you just very briefly because I think mainstream media has overlooked it. He keeps saying that Miss Willis hired Mr. Wade because he was her boyfriend. And the whole reason she retained his outside counsel on this prosecution of the election interference case was because they were romantically involved, and she wanted to take advantage of his income from this contract. However, there's a book that recently came out called Find Me the Vote, and I cite it in the Salon piece and in my Substack. Ms. Willis went to two other lawyers, prominent attorneys, before she turned to Mr. Wade. One of them, Roy Barnes, was the former Georgia governor. The other one was Gabe Banks, and she wanted both of them to supervise this case, and they both said no because they were afraid of their personal safety. Mr. Barnes said, hypothetically speaking, do you want to spend the rest of your life with a bodyguard following you around? So they were afraid to take on this case, not without some rational, basis based on what all the threats that people have been getting in Georgia and elsewhere. So she tried to get two other attorneys to take on Mr. Wade's role before she handed it or offered it to Mr. Wade. So that to me blows his entire theory out of the water that she hired Mr. Wade because he was her boyfriend. It completely knocks it out. And then I have a specific response to the legal allegations in the complaint, but I want to stop there before I move on and give you a chance to
First off, were they in a relationship before she hired him? I mean, I've heard also that this relationship started after he came to work for her.
There's an allegation that she has not, neither of them have come out in social media or mainstream media to deny it. Right. So I'm assuming, without any evidence, I'm assuming for purposes of my argument that they were. Right. And because worst case scenario, they were involved.
But again, so what? Right.
So what? It has nothing to do with Mr. Trump asking the Secretary of State to find 11,780 votes that didn't exist. It has nothing to do with Mr. Roman's alleged involvement in forgery, impersonating a government official, the slate elector, the slate of false electors. It's not related to that whatsoever. And again, the conflict of interest comes in when attorneys have a conflict that they're hiding from their client that will hurt their client. In this case, the client is Fulton County and the pursuit of justice, if that's where the facts and the law lead.
Right.
Of course, there are some people in MAGA world, probably in Fulton County, who don't see it that way, who think that the very prosecution of Mr. Trump is illicit.
Right.
And
how dare
they're certainly he's alleging in this, basically saying brief that getting paid is illicit.
Right. So I want to emphasize a point that you made, which is that these people are paid with money from the state of Georgia as paychecks. I mean,
Right.
Wade, his law firm, has a contract, but the money that he gets out of that contract is coming to him as a paycheck. And Fani Willis draws a salary. And the one trip in particular, I think it was the Bahamas, it was in the Caribbean someplace, where they went, apparently was paid for with personal funds. Apparently he paid for the trip, at least that's the allegation, using personal funds. And this allegation is that that's government money that's being used because they took those funds as part of their pay. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's ridiculous. I mean, and it doesn't even matter where they went or what they used their funds for. There's a passage in Mr. Roman's brief where he's talking about how Mr. Wade took money out of the same account where he had his Fulton County contract funds deposited. What BS? That just means he deposited his income, his paycheck, into his account, and then he used his personal account to go on a trip. Right. There's nothing that prohibits you from using your taxpayer income,
post-tax income,
contract or as an employee. There's absolutely nothing in the law whatsoever that restricts how you use your own money. And it's really irritating to me that mainstream media keeps repeating this tagline about lavish vacations at taxpayer expense. It's bogus. It's their own money. They can spend it on, grooming a flock of sheep if they want to. It's nobody's business how they spend their money.
There you go.